Hi, sweetheart.
Hey, I was wondering because you keep on mentioning that trust has eroded in the left-wing media,
Yes.
and I know you were around Gamergate since Conspiracy. Do you think that beyond Trump, before Trump maybe even, we created that hole to, sort of, as you put it, methodically take them down?
Yeah, well, the question, it's interesting because have I gone off? I think I'm off. Do you have to switch it? There we go. Well, no one's ever going to believe this because nobody ever read any decent reporting on this unless you were reading me at the time. But Gamergate, which was this sort of extraordinary clash of video gamers and feminists and journalists, which you would have no interest in reading if you weren't into gaming. And even if you were, you probably, well, this may have passed you by. It was a cataclysmic event in culture. It was the first time that we beat them. It was the first time that not just the political right, but the cultural right fought back. And not just Republicans, but libertarians. People who, when told their video games could turn you into sexist, said, prove it. When told that their video games were damaging and racist and sexist, said, where? Show me. Prove it. I'm not just taking it on trust like the comic book fans did, or the fantasy fans did, or the... You see, this is another great conservative virtue, perseverance. You see, stick to your guns, and eventually they get bored. It was a very important thing, and it was important because it was the first time that the cultural right and cultural libertarians had won. They fought them off. They beat them. And who would have believed it was the humble video gamer to do it? But Gamergate was the first moment in culture that I believed that a Trump could be possible. Because it was the first time that social justice warriors and feminists and Black Lives Matter and all those kind of odious idiots who trade on feelings instead of facts got a good kicking. They really got beaten up badly. And it was wonderful to watch because it finally persuaded me that there was a core of libertarians, free thinkers, dissidents, mischief makers, Republicans, and whatever else, who had some backbone left, who really cared about stuff and weren't just going to accept on face value that they were all racist and sexist and they should pray for forgiveness at the temple of the Democrat Party. It persuaded me that something like Trump was possible. And so when he came along, I knew he'd win. I knew he'd win because I'd seen it happen in culture already. And culture is so much bigger and more important than politics. Politics is just symptoms, What matters is what happens in Hollywood, in the news business, in academia, and now, which all of you won't realize unless you do this, video games, which are a $90 billion industry. I mean, video gaming is bigger than Hollywood. Some of you will play, Grand Theft Auto or whatever at the weekends. What you don't realize is just how utterly vast this industry is. And it's barely covered. Nobody reports on it. Nobody knows anything about it, really. Nobody knows who the players are. Nobody knows who the big studios are. Nobody knows how much, occasionally you'll see, Grand Theft Auto took 300 million on its first day, and you're like, okay, whatever, move along with your life. Nobody realizes what a big deal it was. And nobody saw it coming. And I was the only conservative who did. And the only person, really, to treat it with the seriousness that it deserved. And with the result that we won. So yeah, no, it was very important. And it was an important moment in culture, which is why... And I very firmly believe that it laid the groundwork for Trump, because I think that it showed that you don't have to have the cool friends. You don't have to be liked on Twitter. You can say unpopular true things and win anyway. You can survive if they come for you. Because the Gamergate, these gamers who would just be like, we're not sexist and racist. What the fuck are you talking about? I just want to blow some shit up and see some tits. There's nothing wrong with that. There is not. And it doesn't make me a horrible monster when I turn the console off. I don't beat my girlfriend after I've, beaten up the prostitute in Grand Theft Auto, because guess what? I know the difference. So I'm not a single-celled organism like a social justice warrior. I am a sentient, intelligent, educated being, and I can tell the difference between a video game and real life. So, this was the first time that I think people realized, and everyone was watching, and everyone was too scared to say anything, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm going in. But everybody, I think, realized that the whole press can be against you and you can win anyway. And that's why I think that Trump was possible, because it emboldened his supporters to simply stop caring about what the press said about them, because they'd seen it happen before, and they'd seen it be successful. Andrew, let's go to somebody this side. You, in the dark gray. Yeah. Oh, it was the one behind, actually. Oh, no, I feel bad now. Why don't you both go? Why don't you both go? You can't make me choose. Okay. You both go.
First of all, thank you very much for coming here. Definitely appreciate it a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Obviously, thanks for putting up for all the bullshit. Thank you. But
I've made a mess outside and I've ruined your carpet, but thanks for having me.
we love it just as much as you do. Don't worry. But I think it's undeniable that Trump faced numerous obstacles during the election cycle, between the number of other candidates, the media bias, Hollywood, all the stuff, throwing everything they got. But now that it's over and he's in, what do you think his biggest challenge will be as president for the next 4 years?
Sort of makes you wistful for the days of the fire alarm. I think they're very fragile, you know. I don't look it, but I think his biggest challenge is going to be. I mean, look, he's got to hire 5,000 people. He's got to take some of them from existing Republican stock. I think he's going to encounter a lot of resistance from Paul Ryan's wife's boyfriend. There we go. All the various other people who are going to cause trouble for him in the Republican elites from within. I think his big challenge. He's got to do what he did when he was running, which is terrify the living daylights out of them and bully, beat, and scream them into submission and have them begging for his patronage. Because if he doesn't do that, there's a reasonable chance that they'll simply block everything that he's trying to do out of spite. You've got to remember that this guy's put them all out of business. Not just the politicians, but an entire ecosystem of lobbyists and consultants, all the people who get paid vast sums to sit around and say, oh, you should do this, and oh, Wisconsin will go that way if you do this. Not in that accent, obviously. These people are all out of business because he has smashed the conventional wisdom on absolutely everything. So all of the very worst people in America, the absolute worst people in the world, are kind of like fucked for 8 years, They've got nothing to do and they're not going to make any money. And the journalists who weren't behind him are going to find themselves increasingly isolated and irrelevant. Sorry, I should do it here, shouldn't I? And so, I think there's going to be retaliation at some point. They're going to come for him. Now, at the moment, the press is coming for, my old boss and even me a little bit, and various other people with these ridiculous names, anti-Semite, white supremacist. Oh, give me a break, please. They're coming at us with all kinds of ridiculous names. But when there's was it 5 stages of grief, the Kubler-Ross, bargaining, acceptance, whatever it is. When they finally come to terms with the fact that they lost, they didn't win. Like, get it into your heads. You didn't win. Go away now. When it finally dawns on them, and they sort of retreat into their corner to lick their wounds and work out what they're going to do in 8 years' time, I think the establishment Republicans are going to come for him. And I think it's going to be ugly, sort of internecine warfare. I think he's going to need his supporters to tell these people where to go. So that's my big worry for him in office. Thank you. And Andrew, I want to go to the other one just behind this one. Yeah, this guy here. Not again. Stop it, Andrew.
Thank you. So towards the end of the election, another tranche of WikiLeaks emails came out, and what little amount that the media did to try to cover it, they were on Hillary's plane, and they asked her about this, and she was standing next to Podesta. And she said something, and then she went right to the R word, Russians. And so this whole time there has been like this kind of resurgence, this neo-McCarthyism amongst the left, that if you just say anything and you connect it to the Russians, immediately they're bad. I mean, Trump wants to get along with everybody. He wants to be, a sensible individual. But what's your take on this whole, like I said, this neo-McCarthyism that we experience with all these,
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a sort of psychiatric defect among people who have lost the argument and forgotten. Sorry, I think I'm gone again. What? I know. I can tell. Thanks. I'll yell. It's a sort of psychiatric defect of people who haven't really had to work or fight for anything or persuade anyone for 30 years because they've been able simply to lie and to name call. Which is a situation the left finds itself in. So when it panics, the progressive left looks for scapegoats. And it's the specter of white supremacy. It's anti-Semitism. You know, it's the Russians. It's a green cartoon frog on the internet. I pray to Keck every day. He has bestowed great gifts upon me, as you can tell. I think you can relatively confidently dismiss it, like you can confidently dismiss most of what they do as just another search for someone to blame for their own failures. And this, of course, is what social justice warriors do. Feminism, as it currently exists, third wave feminism, is a vast exercise in shifting the blame. Anything bad that happens to you is the fault of some man somewhere, or all men, the patriarchy. What this does is it robs young girls of the ability to make their own lives better. If you didn't pass an exam, you can either take responsibility, study, and try again, or you can say the marking criteria was sexist. Black Lives Matter, similarly, is an exercise in shifting the blame. Rather than taking control of your own circumstances, your own lot in life, educating your kids, trying to get them into Harvard, work within the system, and raise yourself up using all of the tools available in America, you throw your toys out the pram, burn your own town down, and demand special treatment. This is an abnegation of personal responsibility, another great conservative virtue, and scapegoating and blaming somebody else for all your own faults. That's what is happening right now. In the pages of the New York Times and in Vox and BuzzFeed and not Gawker anymore. All these liberal outlets are looking for who did it. Who did it to us? There couldn't have been anything wrong with us because all we were doing was fighting racism and sexism and trying to stop that awful man getting to the White House and white supremacy. One day, perhaps, in their 60s or their 70s, they will look back and they will think, maybe it was me. Maybe I was just an idiot. But not anytime soon. So expect them to continue to blame racism, sexism. Expect them to continue to blame the Russians. Almost anybody that they can lay their hands on that will excuse them from self-examination. Because that's what they do. I think we do one or two more. Look at this very enthusiastic lady over here. Let's do that. Waving with both hands, a high energy wave.
Hi, Milo.
Hi, Donnie.
I'm really fucking thrilled to be here.
Well,
Because I was outside that door earlier. But
you were?
I was.
Was it awful?
It was scary.
Was it scary?
Those guys came in the mask. I was scared shit.
Why were they in ski masks?
I don't know.
What was your question?
Well, actually, first, I wanted to say that fat shaming does work.
I mean, of course it does, but yeah.
So I'm 1 month into my weight loss journey, as the snowflakes would say. 15 pounds down. So, thank you. So thank you very much for that, Milo. You did that for me. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, just to interject briefly. I mean, they say this fat shaming doesn't work. Of course it fucking works. Of course it works. Anybody knows. If you come home and you've put weight on, you're sort of like your wife's not interested or your husband's not interested anymore, and you say, oh, does my look big? Well, yeah, a little bit. Like, of course it works. Everyone knows they stop getting sex when they get too big. What's the worst thing that could ever happen to you? Is somebody you love, you want to have sex with, and you're like, And all the real studies, not these sort of awful lefty, advocacy research, horseshit things, all the real studies say the same thing, that social pressure is the #1 reason why, sorry, I'm being unhelpful to you. Social pressure is the #1 reason why people make changes in their life generally, whether it's giving up smoking or losing weight or whatever. The sort of feeling that sense of social pressure, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Fat shaming is the virtuous choice. Fat shaming is a public service, so keep doing it. And I'm glad that you got something out of it. Thank you. I think you had a question.
I was just wondering what you thought about Godfrey Eldwick's bogus article to The Guardian about the alt-right.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's a good tee-up question. There we go. Godfrey Elfwick, which is the finest comic creation on the internet, I encourage you to look up for his Twitter account, claims to be responsible for an article in The Guardian, anonymously written, and I believe that it was him because he's brilliant, and I've spoken to him before, that said, the alt-right turned me into a racist, but I pulled myself back from the brink, and I started with Sam Harris. I mean, talk about a guy, an implausible idiot, to try to pin it on Sam Harris, one of the most reasonable and intelligent thinkers, far more educated and interesting than I am, try to pin it on him and then say, oh, well, it started. It was a very somberly written thing. So this is an anonymous byline in The Guardian. So it started with Sam Harris videos, and then I discovered Milo Yiannopoulos. And then finally, I started thinking to myself, ooh, maybe Muslims don't like gays that much. And my wife suddenly caught me, and I was like, oh my God, I've turned racist. Anyway, I pulled myself up. Anyway, this ridiculous thing. So obviously fictitious, so obviously full of shit. And they have the gall that they dare to accuse Breitbart of, or any of these other right-wing publications of fake news. The fake news is the stuff you read in the New York Times. It's Nate Silver. The fake news is the stuff that you read in The Guardian. The things that they desperately wish were true. They believe, or they want to believe are true. All Trump supporters are racists. All Trump supporters are motivated by this deep-seated patriarchal hatred of women. What, even the 52% of women that voted for him, you idiot. They all want to believe this. They have to believe it. They're desperate to believe it. That's the real fake news. This is another one of the things that they have done after the election, their retaliation. Who's to blame? Who did this to us? Who did this to us? Because it wasn't us. We didn't lose fair and square. Somebody did it. So they started coming for the right-wing media, coming for libertarian and conservative publications that they rightly recognize as having a huge influence on this election because they themselves did not, except, of course, to embarrass themselves and show up the left for what it is. And they started coming for us, accusing us of publishing fake news. Well, there's a reason that Breitbart is able to laugh in the face of Kellogg's and Tony the Tiger, and that is because we boast 45 million readers a month. And they're not all idiots. Most of them are not. Most of them are just like you. The vast majority, just like the vast majority of any other publication, are smart, educated, normal Americans who are sick of the mainstream media. And, they've rightly identified Breitbart as one of the most powerful media, new media companies in America today, and they just couldn't stand it. Why do they hate us? Because we tell the truth. And it's really as simple as that. And that article is a perfect example of the sort of fictitious garbage the mainstream media is perfectly happy to publish if it makes them feel right, and it sort of has the right politics and enables them to wallow in their feelings instead of examining the facts. It is a perfect, beautiful example of how, one, the media works, and two, the fact that they have not learnt their lesson after this election. They haven't got it into their heads this stuff doesn't work anymore. So I'm grateful to you for bringing that up because it's a wonderful example. I'm going to do one more question, I think. Is that right? Yes? You go somewhere else in the room. You've been very... I want to make Andrew run because Andrew could do with a bit of fat shaming. So I'm gonna choose this lady over here with the I will pay for that later.
Hi, Milo. Thank you so much for coming to WVU. I was really pissed when they moved it from before the election to now, but I'm still glad you're here.
Well, I'm glad. We got to have a party. It's my first talk since
yes.
we got excitement outside. We got sugary snacks. What more could you want?
I also wanted to thank you for bringing to my attention just one of your videos on Facebook where you literally just listed out the stats from the FBI crime report, and ever since then I've been checking it every year, so thank you for completely obliterating Black Lives Matter with that. I really appreciate it. I was wondering if you would ever consider doing like a show or a broadcast with Tommy Lahren from The Blaze.
Oh, yeah, I like her a lot. She's poor girl at The Blaze. Can you imagine all that talent Oh, you got to wait. She might see this, so I'll wait until I've got the mic. How are we doing? Yes, good. No, I love her. I love her. Very smart, very well educated, right about almost everything. Lovely hair, which matters just as much. I only feel sorry she's stuck in that dead end, the Blaze. I mean, I know there are some possibly 2-3 subscribers left in America. I think she's going to get snapped up pretty soon by somebody else. I don't know about doing a show together. I think she'd find me a little too gauche. But I would love to. Well, you know, she's a nice girl. She's a nice girl from a nice home. She probably doesn't like swearing. She might find me a bit much, but I love her. I'd certainly like to have her on my show or something. So yeah, no, I think she's terrific. One of the very few, I think, conservative pundits. I don't really think of myself as a sort of political pundit. I've been talking a lot about the election, but I only really care about Trump because of free speech and free expression and art and culture. So I got sort of drawn into talking about Trump because I care about those things, and that's what matters at the moment. She's one of the few strictly political pundits, along with Ann Coulter, that I think actually is worth paying attention to. So yes, I think she's great. Very, 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 very good, and somebody to watch. Can we do one more, Andrew? Sure. Yeah, let's do one more. I feel guilty now. I'm sorry, by the way. I didn't mean it. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna pay for that later. Right. Let's do. Yeah. All right. This guy in the beanie, the hat. Yeah. You. I need a bit of diversity. It's been all white people. Yeah, sorry. It's okay.
Hey, Milo.
It's okay because I have a very enthusiastic affirmative action policy in the bedroom. More than makes up for my white audience.
Okay, Milo, who do you like more, Joan Crawford or Bette Davis?
Oh, it's such a gay question. I've never heard a Barbra Streisand song. I'm the worst fag in the world. I suck at being gay. Apart from the sex bit, I'm good at that, but I'm really bad at being gay. Joan Crawford or Bette Davis? Well, so for those of you who don't know, because that was a very esoteric question, there is a movie that is good. There's sort of a cult gay movie called Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And it's, students sometimes know it's a bit of like a student cult movie. And these two actresses who were sorry, say again? It's an old people movie. Well, it's who said that? Oh, okay. No. Come on. Oh, God. But did you see it when you were a little girl in the theater? Oh, okay. That came out a really long time ago. Oh. She is. Don't we have the best MILFs? Well, the movie, I commend it to you as a wonderful little theatrical artifact. If you're into character studies, the two actresses kind of past their prime, playing these two kind of grand, larger-than-life women. And the appeal of this movie is that they're not really playing the characters, they're really just being themselves. And these two women absolutely hated each other in real life. And it starts to it seethes out of the screen. When you've seen the movie, I think you will appreciate, since she was more deranged and hysterical, I think Bette Davis would probably be my favorite. There's a lovely song at the beginning, which of course you will know. I've written a letter to Daddy. That's a weird way to end this talk, but see, I know some shit. You didn't think I know that shit. Yes, it's a very good film. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Let's do one more. Andrew. Let's go right up the back to the guy in the red up there.
Lovely. First off, you'll forgive my Fidel Castro look. I didn't know he was going to die.
All right. Forgive you the
I swear to you, I'm not a Cuban revolutionary or any of that shit. But we are in the midst of a cultural war. I think you would agree with me when I say that.
Yes.
And given that multiculturalism has failed in Europe, and now that Trump's won, and you could say that, I guess maybe the alt-right has kind of won too, where do you think, and I'm a classical liberal, so I identify with Sargon of Akkad, for instance. Where do you think the next step is for people like us? People on my team, I should say. And, and fellow travelers like yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so I think a lot of what you guys have been complaining about for a very long time is, I mean, if you watch Sargon of Akkad, who's a friend of mine, I haven't spoken to him for a while actually, but he's a wonderful, wonderful YouTuber, very smart on trigger warnings and safe spaces and feminism and all the rest of it. He's a classical liberal. And these are the people who follow J.S. Mill. Read On Liberty and really believe that stuff, which not many people do these days, even Republicans. The people who believe that you should be able to say, do, and be whatever you want, provided that you don't hurt anybody else, provided you're not infringing on anyone else's rights, infringing on anyone else's property. This is a sort of very central building block of American public life, but even Republicans don't believe this, or at least not all of them these days. Well, for you guys, Trump, although he may be, in Steve Bannon's words, an imperfect vessel, I think Trump is going to be a remarkable boon to your cause, because Trump may not be the most libertarian candidate for president in history, but the effect of Trump is going to be to smash political correctness beyond any recovery. And the effect of a Donald Trump presidency is going to produce all of the things you want. You're going to be able to say, do, and be anything except perhaps a social justice warrior, and it will be okay. You can yiff if you want to. Everyone know what that is? No furries in the room. That's what they call their sex. The people who have sex in the fur animal suits. They call it yiffing. You can even. It's my job to know these things. You can even watch anime. It's all gonna be okay. And it's gonna be okay thanks to the election of the most improbable but wonderful candidate for president this country has ever had, Donald J. Trump. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for being such a lovely audience. Oh well, thank you.